What is our brain? What does it do? And how do we develop a relationship with it? Because I feel that people are very confused with what is the brain? What is the mind? You know, what does it do? What does it not do? I think there's a lot of stuff out there. How would you describe it?
Well, it's very clear to me after all the scans I've done that your brain, the physical functioning of your brain, the moment by moment physical functioning of your brain creates your mind. And if your brain's not right, your mind's not right. And there are a lot of spiritual teachers that'll separate the mind from the brain, but you can't, because just think of Alzheimer's disease, you know, very damaged brains, and they're very damaged minds that go, I mean, people that act in ways they'd never act if their brain was healthy, that they don't remember people that they're deeply in love with. And so if we want a healthy mind, it actually starts with a healthy brain. And, you know, I've had the blessing or the curse to scan over 1,000 convicted felons and over 100 murderers, and their brains are very damaged. So if your behavior is so bad, you end up in a cage. And they're not thinking, oh, I have to understand, evaluate, rehabilitate that person's brain, and then they act better. And that helps all of us. Dostoevsky once said, you can tell about the soul of a society, not by how it treats its outstanding citizens, but by how it treats its criminals. And it's, you know, when I first started scanning people, I didn't really have an opinion on the death penalty. I just really hadn't thought about it. I thought of free will as black or white. You have it or you don't. And then as my work became known, defense attorneys would send me people who did really bad things, and their brains were so damaged. And when I would go to court, and a lot of people hated me for that, you know, if you have a bad brain and you did something terrible, you don't get to go home. But should you kill them? I mean, it's a really important question. And I'm like, no, you know, it's not the sign of an evolved society to kill sick people. I mean, you have to protect society from them. But what I've seen is if we rehabilitate their brain, they can have a meaningful life. And people just aren't connecting. It's your brain. It's easy to call people bad. It's harder to go, why? And, oh, can I fix it?
What are the things that damage our brains? Because I think what we find is we often think like, oh, that person was totally normal, and then one day they just changed. Or we say things like, oh yeah, if you just met them, like they were just quiet and calm, like you would never have noticed anything, and then they did this horrific thing. Like, what are those habits? What are those patterns that start damaging our brain? Because I don't think we're aware. As you said, we never see our brain. We don't really talk about it. We don't really know much about it. What are the things we do since birth that damage our brains that could lead to something as extreme as that?
Well, even before birth.
Yes.
So since marijuana has been legalized in many states, babies born with marijuana in their bodies has gone up 1,700%. I mean, it's a ridiculous amount. So even before you're born, what happens in utero can damage the trajectory of your life. They have more behavior problems. They have more attention problems. They have less empathy for other people. And then, you know, as you go through life, the standard American diet is damaging brains. You know, you talked about how healthy your diet has been. I follow this guy on TikTok. For some reason, my TikToks has gone crazy. And he looked at his blood sugar before and after Pop-Tarts. And Pop-Tarts was like the worst thing he looked at, almost worse than Coca-Cola. Yeah. But what are we feeding children? I mean, in public school free lunches, Pop-Tarts, which means we're damaging their blood sugar levels we're damaging their weight and we're damaging their brain. And I have a mnemonic called Bright Minds, which helps me remember, like B is for blood flow, low blood flow, number one brain imaging predictor of Alzheimer's disease. So Netflix, right? Not in front of the TV too often, not exercising, that damages your brain. Probably the number one thing that causes brain trouble. Your brain is soft about the consistency of soft butter. Your skull is really hard and has sharp bony ridges. Mild traumatic brain injuries ruin people's lives. If you said, hey, Daniel, single most important thing from 210,000 scans, mild traumatic brain injuries. Don't let your kids. Physical, right? From snowboarding, falling off a horse, football, soccer, hockey.
Physical abuse too, I guess. Domestic violence.
Physical abuse will do it. Falls, car accidents, and people are texting and driving and texting and walking. And there's 3 million new concussions every year in the United States, which means over the last 30 years, there have been 90 million people that have had concussions. It's very common and a common cause of depression, homelessness, addiction, suicide, panic attacks, ADHD.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, when you spell it out that clearly, I think what I love about you is, I think the 2 times I have done an interview with you, and then when I was with you, I just go away going, I need to do something for my brain. I need to figure it out, right? And it's a good thing. Like, I enjoyed that healthy sense of an awakening and a healthy sense of fear, because I think we are so scared of being scared in society today. Like, we don't want to listen to the truth because it's scary, it's inconvenient, it forces us to change something. If someone could do something starting tomorrow, what is the thing that someone could do waking up tomorrow that could be better for their brain? What would you say that is?
Well, in You Happier, I talk a lot about the tiny habits, the smallest things that'll make the biggest difference. And brain and mental health, it's a daily practice. Just like physical health, right? As I said, you look really great. That's a daily practice, right? You just don't do that one day a week. You do it every day. If you want a really great brain and a really great mind, they're habits every day. And some of my favorite every day, is this good for my brain or bad for it? I just, like, when my daughter, she turned 19 yesterday.
Oh, happy birthday to her.
And when she was little, we played Chloe's game. And Chloe's game was, is this good for your brain or bad for it? Frozen blueberries. Oh, 2 thumbs up. God's candy. Or avocados. Oh, 2 thumbs up. God's butter. Hitting your head with a soccer ball. No, very stupid. Thumbs down. Right. And so just playing with her with that question that takes 3 seconds, right? I mean, this doesn't take long. And people go, well, what's good and what's bad? Second graders know it. I went into her second grade class, put 20 things on the board, and I went, separate them for me. And they got 19 out of 20 right. So they got a 95%. And the only thing they got wrong was orange juice, which they put in the good category, which is like way too much sugar.
Yes.
And so whenever you unwrap sugar from its fiber source, right, turn fruit into juice, it turns toxic in your body. So you have to be really careful with that. So that's 1. 2, whenever you wake up in the morning, today is going to be a great day. You have to nudge your brain, right? We have a conscious mind, we have an unconscious mind, we have a self-image, and your subconscious is paying attention to the words that the conscious mind is saying. And so if you're like, oh, I don't want to get out of bed, today is going to be a bad day, you're going to have a bad day because you just programmed your subconscious mind to do that. Every day when my feet hit the floor, today is going to be a great day. And then my favorite of all of them is when you go to bed at night. And bed is so important because if you want to have a good day, it starts the night before. Is what went well today. So when I go to bed, I say a prayer and then I go, what went well. And I go on a treasure hunt because I'm purposefully looking for what are the right things that happened. And I look for the micro moments, like what's the smallest thing? And for me, where I live, I see a lot of hummingbirds and butterflies, and I just focus on them. And I've been doing this for years, and it's so helpful. And about 2.5 years ago, my dad died, and it was an awful, awful day. And when I went to bed that night, I said a prayer, and I went, what went well today? And then the voice in my head, started criticizing me, like you're a bad kid and you don't love your dad and whatever. But because it's my habit, I went, what went well today? And I saw this interaction between my mother and the police officer. And it was so funny and so beautiful that it just made me smile. And then I thought of all the texts I got from my friends who found out about my dad, and that was peaceful. And then I just thought about holding his hand before they took him away. And I went to sleep because I'm mastering my mind and not being a victim of the situation. It didn't mean I didn't grieve. I still grieve. I still miss him. But it's these habits, like every day, to direct my mind, to help me while taking care of my brain.
Yeah, I love those practical tools because in effect, what we're trying to do is change our thought pattern, right? We have a pattern, as you said, to wake up and say, I'm tired. And we put it on snooze, and then we get up, and then we're having breakfast and we're like, I'm still tired. And then we get to lunchtime and we're like looking at the clock and we're like, I'm still tired. And then by the end of the night, I'm still tired. But then we're up at midnight watching Netflix or whatever it may be, saying, I'm still tired. And then that becomes our reality, that we just continue to feed that fatigue and we're just more and more and more tired. Whereas when you nudge your brain in a different direction, as you said, and you said, today's going to be a great day, you now start making great choices because you want it to be a great day. But what I love about what you've defined, and this is different and I appreciate it, is that you don't talk about positive thinking, you talk about accurate thinking as being a healthier way to live. And I really like that clarification because I think the positive thinking approach can also be quite toxic. Like you just said about your father, it's not that you didn't feel grief, it's not that you don't miss him. Like, of course, those are very real